He looked at the bandage on my face, not at my uniform, not at my tray. Not at the glass of water I had just set down on his table like I was invisible, like I was furniture, like I was simply part of the room. At the bandage. And his eyes went so still, so quiet, so dangerously calm that the entire restaurant seemed to stop breathing. He leaned forward, just 1 inch. And his voice came through the silence like something pressed through velvet. "Who did this to you?" I should have said nobody. I should have smiled, refilled his water, and walked away like a professional. Instead, my eyes filled with tears I had not given myself permission to cry. And that was the beginning of everything. My name is Amara Osaibansu. I was born in Accra, Ghana, and spent part of my life in London. Now I live in Seoul, South Korea, working double shifts at a private supper club in Gangnam. I am 28 years old. I have a degree in art history. It took me 4 years to earn it. In Seoul, it hasn't opened a single door. Most nights, I carry heavy trays through a dim dining room that smells like grilled meat and expensive cologne. I watch people talk about deals and futures I'm not part of. My mother still calls every Sunday from Accra. She asks when I'm coming home. I tell her, soon. I never mean it. My best friend, Sina, is the only reason I've stayed this long. I tell everyone I'm fine. I show up on time. I do my job. I keep my head down. That's how you survive when you don't have another plan. But the truth is, I haven't been okay for a while. Living in a country where you don't fully belong teaches you how to hide things. You learn how to smile at the right moments, how to keep moving. What I hadn't learned was how to hide a bruise from someone who knows exactly what he's looking at. The Qingdam silhouette was not a restaurant for ordinary people. Everything about it whispered money in a language older than currency. Dark walnut walls, amber lighting so low it felt like the room was keeping secrets. Music that was always instrumental, sometimes jazz, sometimes Korean Gaeogeum compositions that sounded like rain falling on silk. The clientele were businessmen, politicians, celebrities who didn't want to be recognized, and men whose business dealings existed in the space between what was legal and what was simply not yet illegal. We all knew. We pretended we didn't, because the tips were extraordinary and the manager, Mr. Cho, ran a clean front of house and never let anything cross the floor that would endanger his staff. In 8 months of working that floor, I had learned to read powerful men the way you learn to read weather. Most of them I could predict. Most of them were just noise dressed in expensive suits. But there was a third kind, the kind that was powerful the way gravity is powerful, quietly, completely, without effort or announcement. The kind that rooms reorganize themselves around without anyone deciding to do it. Park Jae-won was that kind. He was tall, with a face that looked like it had been assembled with extreme care. Sharp jaw, hooded eyes the color of dark coffee. Hair swept back with effortless precision. He wore a charcoal suit with a white shirt open at the collar, and on his right hand, a single ring. Black stone, silver setting. It caught the amber light every time he moved. He came in every Tuesday with 4 men, 2 in front, 2 behind, and they moved through the restaurant like water moving around a stone. He was always at the center. He sat at table 7. Table 7 was always his. We knew this the way you know certain songs belong to certain hours, just an unspoken fact of the universe. For 6 weeks, he didn't notice me any more than he noticed the walnut walls. And then came the night I tripped, not a dramatic fall. Just a stumble, my heel caught the edge of the floor mat near table 7, the tray tilted, and a full glass of cold water went directly onto the sleeve of the man sitting across from Park Jae-won. That man, Director Kang, stood up with a face like a thunderstorm. The entire table went silent. My heart stopped completely, and then Park Jae-won said very quietly, "Director Kang." "Sit down," 4 words, that was all. And Director Kang, a man who looked like he had not been told to sit down since primary school, sat down. Park Jae-won looked at me, not with amusement. Not with contempt. Not with that particular brand of pity that makes the observer feel superior. He looked at me the way you look at someone you recognize from somewhere you cannot quite place. "Are you hurt?" he asked, in careful, precise English. I was so stunned that someone at that table was asking if I was hurt that I forgot to answer for 3 full seconds. "No," I finally said. "I'm so sorry, I'll have the suit dry cleaned immediately. Don't worry about the suit," he said, and he returned to his table. I walked back to the kitchen. And just before I pushed through the door, I felt it. That specific awareness that lives beneath the skin. The knowledge that someone's eyes are on your back. I didn't turn around. That moment stayed with me longer than it should have. I told myself it meant nothing. I told myself powerful men notice things, it's how they stay powerful. It wasn't personal. It wasn't anything. I was wrong. The bruise on my face did not come from a stranger. It came from Kwame, my ex-boyfriend. Also Ghanaian, also living in Seoul, a man I had loved for 14 months before I understood that some people hold love the way they hold ownership, gripping it until it stops being love at all. I had ended it 3 weeks before that November night. He had shown up at my apartment on a Wednesday evening, wearing the particular kind of anger that people put on when they believe their pain gives them permission. He hadn't meant to, he said afterward. I had a bruise the size of a plum on my cheekbone that told a different story. I didn't go to the police. I want to be honest about why. It wasn't only fear, though there was fear. It was the mathematics of being a foreign national in a country where you are already hypervisible, already required to work twice as hard to be seen as half as legitimate. I did the math, and the math said the cost was too high for where I was standing that week, so I put a bandage over it. I went to work. I was good at going to work. On that Thursday night in November, the restaurant was full, a private gathering among Park Ji-won's associates. I moved between tables. I took orders. I smiled. I performed *okay with everything I had left, and then I came to table 7, and Park Ji-won looked at my face, not at my uniform, not through me, at *me. At the bandage, I had pressed foundation over that morning until my hands were shaking too hard to press any further. The table went quiet without anyone deciding to make it quiet. He reached out slowly, with the precision of someone who understood that sudden movements break things that are already fragile, and placed 2 fingers gently beneath my chin. He tilted my face toward the light. I should have stepped back. I almost did. But there was something in his eyes that stopped me, not desire, not calculation. Something older and quieter than either of those things. Recognition. He had seen this before. He knew this specific shape of hurt. He released my chin, leaned back. And he said so quietly that only I could hear, "I'll protect you," 3 words. And I felt them land in the center of my chest like they had been looking for that exact address for a very long time. The tears came before I could stop them. Not a flood, just 2. Quickly blinked away. "Sir," I whispered, "I don't even know you." "No," he said, "but you know what it means when someone says that and they mean it." He was right. And that was the problem. Over the following weeks, something shifted in the architecture of my Thursday nights. Park Ji-won began requesting me by name, Mr. Cho communicated this with an expression that was both apologetic and quietly astonished. "He knows your name, Amara," he asked specifically. I didn't know how he knew my name. He began leaving notes on the back of his receipts, not love notes, nothing that could be misread. The first was a card with a phone number. Emergency only. Don't hesitate. The second was an address, a women's services organization in Mapo district, written in Korean and English with a small note beside it. They speak English. They will help. This is not charity, this is information. The third stopped me completely. It was a single sentence. Your art history degree, I know a gallery owner in Insadong. Say my name. I stood in the break room bathroom for 20 minutes holding that receipt. How did he know about the degree? How did he know about the gallery I had walked past twice a week for 5 months? The one I pressed my face toward like a woman looking at a life that belonged to someone luckier than her. I was beginning to understand something about Park Ji-won. He did not express care through grand gestures. He expressed it through attention *, through the quiet, precise accumulation of detail. through noticing what other people decided wasn't worth noticing. And he had noticed me. The question was what I was going to do about it. Sina, my best friend, the only person in Seoul who knew my whole story, or thought she did, took one look at my face when I told her everything and went very still. "Amara," she said carefully. "He is in the Korean Mafia. I know that," I said. "Do you though? Because you have a look on your face that I have not seen since you stayed up all night watching that K-drama, and then talked about the lead actor for 3 weeks like he was someone you might actually meet. This is completely different, is it?" It wasn't. And that was terrifying. The most painful moment didn't come from Kwame. It didn't come from Park Jae-won. It came from the direction I least expected, from the woman who loved me most in the world, which is sometimes exactly where the most precise pain comes from. It came from my mother. 6 weeks after the night with the bandage, I told her everything. Kwame, the bruise. The man at the restaurant who had been quietly, carefully, persistently kind to me in ways I didn't know how to receive. My mother is built from Ghanaian red clay and the fear of God and a love so fierce it sometimes comes out sideways. She had survived things I only know about in fragments. She listened to every word I said, and then she said, "Amara, come home. Mum, come home. You are in a foreign country. You are alone. A man hit you. And now a different man, a criminal man, is paying attention to you, and you are telling me this like it is a love story." She paused. "This is not a love story. This is how women disappear." I sat on the floor of my apartment after that call and I cried. Not pretty tears, the ugly kind, the kind that comes from the very bottom of you. I missed red dust roads, the smell of wakai in the morning, the particular quality of Accra light that I had never once thought to describe until I no longer had it. Every small, ordinary thing I didn't know I was carrying, until it became too heavy to pretend I wasn't. I missed home. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was romanticizing something dangerous because I was lonely and hurt, and a man with dark eyes had looked at me, actually looked at me, for the first time in longer than I could remember. I opened my laptop, I found the Airpiece website, my hands hovered over the keyboard, and then my phone lit up, an unknown number. But I recognized the handwriting style in the careful, deliberate construction of every sentence. "The gallery in Insadong is having a private showing Friday evening. You don't have to say my name if you don't want to, but you should go. Your work belongs in rooms like that." I stared at the screen. "How do you know I make art?" I typed. His reply came quiet and exact. "You draw on your order pad when the restaurant is slow. Small faces, patterns. There is something in the way you hold a pen that knows exactly what it is doing." I put the phone down, picked it up, put it down again. "Why are you doing this?" I finally sent. A longer pause this time, long enough that I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because someone should have done this for someone I knew a long time ago, they didn't. I have spent a great deal of time since then being angry about that. One more line followed it. "This is less expensive than anger." I read that last line 4 times. And something I had been holding very tightly, something braced and locked and heavy, finally let go, just slightly, just enough. I went to the gallery. I said his name, the owner, Ms. Yoon, silver-streaked hair. Reading glasses perched like punctuation, looked at me over those glasses with the careful assessment of someone who has seen many people walk through her door, but rarely the unexpected ones. "Park Jae-won sent you," she said. "He mentioned the gallery," I said carefully. She looked at me for a long moment. "Do you have a portfolio?" "On my phone." "I know that's not, show me." She scrolled through 93 images without speaking. My watercolors, my charcoal work. The textile pattern designs I'd been developing at 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. Adding cross symbols I kept returning to. Fusion pieces were Korean inkwash technique met West African geometric tradition. Small portraits of women on Seoul subway trains who didn't know they were being drawn, each one carrying something invisible and heavy. Ms. Yoon looked up. "These are extraordinary," she said. I had not been told that by anyone in 8 months. It went through me like heat through cold water. I have a group exhibition in March, she said. I want 4 of your pieces. I walked out of that gallery and stood on the Insadong pavement with my heart making sounds I wasn't sure hearts were designed to make. I called Sina. He got me into a gallery, I said, 3 seconds of silence. Amara, she said. I know, I said, you are in so much trouble. I know, I said again. The good kind or the bad kind? I looked up at the Seoul sky, gray and heavy and somehow still beautiful. I genuinely don't know, I said. Over the months that followed, we built something that had no name I had ever heard before. It was not a romance, exactly, though there was tenderness in it. It was not a transaction, though he had opened doors that changed the shape of my life. It was something more like a mutual recognition. 2 people who had both learned to move through the world carrying more than anyone could see, who looked at each other and said, without saying it aloud, I see what you're carrying. I'm not going to pretend I don't. He told me about his sister on the night of the March exhibition. 4 of my paintings were on a white wall in Insadong. People in expensive coats were standing in front of them, speaking in hushed voices that made my chest feel like it might expand beyond what my body could hold. He stood beside me in front of one particular painting, a charcoal piece of a woman on a Seoul subway train, face turned away, carrying something invisible, and he spoke quietly. Without performance, the way people speak when they have spent years learning how to say a thing without breaking under the weight of it. His younger sister had been in a situation not unlike mine. A man, a bruise, a foreign city, nobody who stopped to notice. She had not had a Thursday night in a restaurant where someone looked at her face and asked, "Who did this to you?" She had not made it. He said it simply, like a fact he had memorized long ago. Like something he had stopped fighting and started carrying instead. I didn't speak. I placed my hand next to his on the wall, not holding it, just close, just present. He looked at my hand. Then at the painting, then at me. You are going to be fine, he said. Not because of me, because of you. What you carry, you also transform. That is not a small thing, Amara. That is, in fact, everything. I filed the report against Quame, late, imperfect, with no guarantee of any particular outcome, but I filed it. Because the woman at the services organization in Mapo, the one from the address on the receipt note, told me something I needed to hear. She said that filing is not always about justice arriving immediately. Sometimes it is about leaving a record. Sometimes it is about saying out loud, "This happened. It was wrong." And I refuse to let the world forget it, even if the world would very much prefer to. I walked out of that office into cold Seoul air, and I stood on the pavement and I breathed. And that breath, that single ordinary breath, felt like the first one I had taken freely in months. March, gallery night, 4 paintings on a white wall. And me in a dress the color of midnight, with my hair the way I wear it when I want to take up space. Full, high, unapologetic, the way my grandmother wore hers, the way my mother wore hers. The way every woman in my line has worn it when she wanted the world to understand that she was not hiding. No bandage on my face, just Amara. Park Jae-won was not there that night. This was important to me, and I believe he understood why without being told. That room was mine. The work on those walls was mine, built across years in small apartments, on order pads, on the backs of receipts, on any surface that would hold a line when I had nothing else. He had opened a door. I had walked through it. Both things were true, and both things could belong to their own separate dignity. My mother called the morning after the exhibition. I had sent her a photo of the subway woman the week before, the charcoal piece, the woman with her face turned away, carrying something invisible. My mother was quiet on the phone for a long moment. Then she said, "Amara, that is me, on the bus to Kainchi Market, 1989, how did you know?" "I didn't, Mum," I said, "I just drew what I felt." She cried, briefly, quietly. With the particular dignity my mother brings to everything, including grief. "Come home soon," she said. "Yes," I said, "but not yet." I come from people who crossed oceans, who built things in soils that were not theirs, who carried culture and music and story and color, and pattern through every displacement, every foreign city that looked at them like a question they hadn't been asked to answer. I carry them everywhere I go, into Seoul, into Insadong galleries, into the lines I draw on order pads when the restaurant goes quiet, into the paintings on the white wall, into the breath I took on a cold pavement in November, into the voice that finally said, "Yes, this happened, I am not hiding, and I am not going anywhere." The bandage healed, the art remained, that was enough. That was everything. Thank you for listening to this story. If it meant something to you, there's more like it here. You're always welcome to come back for more.